At University Hospital, the air was thick with tension, not just from the medical emergencies stacking up by the hour, but from something more subtle, more volatile, something smoldering just beneath the surface. Dr. John Finn Finnegan and Dr. Bridget Forrester had always had mutual respect as professionals. Their paths crossed in the operating room, in the corridors, in emergency consults. But lately, there was a shift. Ever since they started digging together into an anomaly in patient records, an investigation that began innocently enough, their proximity had grown, and with it, a heat neither of them dared name aloud. It started with a series of inconsistencies Bridget flagged in the hospital's patient data. At first, she thought it was a clerical issue, but then she noticed the same unusual medication pattern affecting patients from the same wing. She brought it up to Finn, not just because he was trusted, but because he was someone who didn't look the other way. Finn took one look and agreed, something wasn't right. They dove in together. What began as a couple of after-hours file reviews snowballed into midnight meetings, confidential conversations, and long hours shoulder to shoulder in Finn's office. Meanwhile, Steffy was on a sabbatical. The stress of corporate pressure at Forrester Creations and her own lingering trauma had led her to take time away with the kids, seeking peace on the Italian coast. She encouraged Finn to stay in LA, to keep his career on track, to be present. She trusted him. Why wouldn't she? They had rebuilt their marriage after the chaos with Sheila Carter, after near-death and betrayal. Steffy had faith in them, faith in him. But distance has a way of creating silence, and silence leaves room for temptation. The deeper Finn and Bridget delved into the mystery, one that soon revealed itself as a pattern of malpractice and possible cover-up, the more they relied on each other. Sleepless nights and the adrenaline of shared danger blurred lines. Finn began seeing Bridget in a new light, not just as a colleague or Steffy's half-sister, but as a woman. Brilliant. Compassionate. Brave. And Bridget, for all her professionalism, was not immune. Finn was steady and intense, someone who listened, someone who understood the way she saw the world. With her ex-husband gone, her son grown, and a life that had become too routine, Bridget found herself looking at Finn longer than she should have. One night, everything cracked. It was after they confronted a nurse about altered charts and suspected she might be coerced. The tension was unbearable. In the privacy of the call room, voices raised, eyes locked. Bridget was trembling, not from fear, but from the weight of what they'd uncovered. Finn reached out instinctively, took her hand to calm her, and in that moment, everything exploded. The kiss wasn't premeditated. It wasn't even conscious. It was raw, terrifying, undeniable. The second it ended, they pulled apart like they'd touched fire. There was silence, heavy and choking. Bridget backed away, tears already in her eyes. Finn looked stunned, horrified, guilty. "This can't happen," Bridget whispered, shaking her head. "It did happen," Finn said, and the regret in his voice twisted something in both of them. But the damage was done. In one lapse, they had crossed a line that couldn't be erased. They agreed to bury it. One kiss. A mistake. Nothing more. They made a pact, focus on the case, protect the patients, and never speak of that moment again. But secrets have weight. Bridget found herself restless, distracted in surgery. She snapped at interns. She avoided eye contact with Finn in staff meetings. And Finn began to unravel. He felt like a traitor to his wife, to the vows he fought to uphold. He began writing long, unsent texts to Steffy, trying to confess, trying to explain what he wasn't even sure he understood himself. It got worse when the investigation broke open. The whistleblowing went public. Media descended on the hospital. Board members demanded answers. The staff turned paranoid. Someone tried to intimidate Bridget into silence, slashed tires. An anonymous message slipped into her locker. "Stop digging or you'll be buried next." Finn went into protector mode. He insisted Bridget stay at his place for safety. Just temporary. just until they could figure out who was behind it. Bridget resisted, then relented. Those nights under the same roof were a war zone of restraint. They moved like strangers in the same house. Polite, careful. But beneath the surface, the tension crackled like static. One night, Bridget couldn't sleep. She went downstairs for water. Finn was already there, shirtless, exhausted, the weight of everything evident in his eyes. Their eyes met. The air froze. They said nothing. Then everything. He crossed the room and stood in front of her. "We can't," she said, voice breaking. "We already did," he replied. And then came the second kiss, deeper, darker, born of surrender. This time, it didn't end with guilt. It ended with silence and the thud of bedroom doors closing behind them. That night changed everything. They didn't speak of it the next day, or the next, but they couldn't unfeel it, couldn't unlive it. Then came the call. Steffy was returning. Early. She missed him. Missed home. Wanted to surprise him. Panic set in. Finn told Bridget she had to move out. Bridget agreed. She packed in silence. Finn tried to say something, but words failed. Steffy walked into her home with her signature grace and radiant smile, only to sense something was off. Finn looked pale, distant. The air felt charged. And then she saw it, Bridget's scarf, still on the couch. A flicker of something, confusion, then doubt. She said nothing. But the seed was planted. The fallout began subtly. Steffy noticed Bridget avoiding her. Saw the way Finn looked away too quickly when she entered a room. She confronted Finn one night. "Is there something you're not telling me?" He denied it. Flat out. But lies rot slowly. Meanwhile, Bridget tried to re-anchor herself in her work. She requested a transfer to another department. Started volunteering in the community clinic. Anything to get away from the suffocating proximity. But fate wasn't done with them. The hospital board launched an internal ethics investigation. An anonymous tip accused Finn and Bridget of inappropriate conduct. Not just the affair, but compromising medical judgment during the patient record probe. Finn was called into a disciplinary hearing. Bridget too. Their reputations, years of hard-earned credibility, were at stake. They denied the personal involvement. Stuck to the script. But eyes in the room saw more than words said. Whispers began. Then the final blow, a photo. Grainy. Taken through a window. A silhouette of Finn and Bridget, unmistakably in an embrace. Leaked anonymously to the press. It went viral. Steffy saw it. Her world collapsed. She confronted Bridget in public, outside the hospital. Cameras caught it. "How could you? You're my sister." Steffy screamed. Bridget tried to explain, but there was nothing to say that could fix it. Nothing that wouldn't sound like betrayal wrapped in excuses. Steffy left Finn. Moved out. Filed for legal separation. Told him she would never look at him the same again. Finn broke. His career was in limbo. His marriage gone. Bridget, too, became a pariah. The hospital suspended both pending review. The press labeled them reckless, immoral, dangerous. They tried to stay away from each other. They owed themselves that much. But when the storm cleared and the dust settled, they found each other again, not out of passion, but because no one else could understand the wreckage they both stood in. In the wreckage, they faced the truth. What started as a spark in crisis had turned into a wildfire. And there was no going back. The silence in Sydney was deafening for Ivy Forrester, but it echoed with memories she couldn't escape. Every step through her family's estate brought flashes of the past, moments with Liam Spencer that never stopped haunting her. She'd convinced herself she'd moved on, that her life outside of Los Angeles had been a fresh chapter, a clean break. But then the news came through. Liam. Collapsed. Near death. Critical. And she hadn't been there. Not even a call. Not a message. Just absence. It gutted her. The man she once loved, still loved, in a way that never dulled, had come that close to vanishing forever, and she would have heard about it secondhand. The guilt gnawed at her. Worse, she saw photos later, floating through social media and press leaks, Hope at his bedside, Steffy a step away. Ivy knew what that meant. The triangle had reformed, whether anyone said it out loud or not. And like gravity, it would always pull Liam toward chaos. She hated herself for thinking it, but a part of her whispered, what if she had been there? The moment she stepped back into LA, everything shifted. The Forrester offices buzzed with polite surprise, but nobody missed the underlying tension. Ivy wasn't just back for work. She was back with a mission, even if she hadn't admitted it to herself yet. She walked through the halls like a ghost awakened, faces familiar, emotions sharper than expected. And when she saw Liam again in person, standing outside the Spencer building looking healthier but distant, the wind knocked out of her. He smiled, kind, cautious. Ivy, he said. Just her name, and it hit her harder than 1,000 apologies. They sat for coffee. At first, it was easy, catching up, polite laughter, shared grief over old battles. But then it got quiet, and Ivy couldn't hold it back anymore. I wasn't there when you needed me, she said, voice raw. Liam blinked, not expecting the emotion. It's okay, he replied automatically. You didn't know. But Ivy shook her head. That's not the point. I should have known. I should have been there. And maybe I'm just being selfish, but when I heard what happened, I realized I'm not over you. Liam didn't respond right away. Because the truth was, he didn't know how he felt anymore. Hope had welcomed him back into her life after the collapse. After his breakdown, his memory lapses, and the fallout from his own spiraling decisions. They'd made promises, fresh ones, grounded in forgiveness and second chances. She stood by him when no one else fully understood. But even now, Hope was watching him closely, looking for signs of cracks, afraid the old Liam might slip through again. Their new beginning was fragile. She knew it. He knew it. Everyone did. And Steffy. Steffy had complicated everything by simply existing. Her connection to Liam never truly died, no matter how often they swore it had. Her departure to Europe months earlier had cleared the air, but with her return, all that dust had been kicked up again. Every glance between them, every lingering pause, stirred old flames. They shared a child. They shared 1,000 broken apologies. And every time Hope turned her back, there was always that danger, one moment, one lapse, one whisper of what if. Now Ivy was back. And Liam was standing at the edge of a cliff again, unsure which way to fall. For Ivy, being near him reignited every scar. She remembered their almost marriage. Their friendship turned love turned heartbreak. She remembered the night she thought she'd lost him forever to Steffy, and the morning she woke up to find him already gone. But this time, Ivy wasn't naive. She wasn't expecting fairy tales. She was here because she refused to repeat the same mistake. She wouldn't run. Not again. And then came the spark. It happened at the Forrester Gala. Ivy, in a deep emerald gown that caught the room's breath. Liam, sharp in black, clearly uncomfortable with the attention. Their eyes locked across the crowd. Hope, laughing a little too hard with Thomas nearby. Steffy, watching everything from the shadows like a chess player waiting for someone to make a fatal move. They danced. Slowly. Not a scene, not a spectacle. Just two people whose timelines had crossed again, quietly. Ivy's hand in his. Liam's fingers tightening just slightly. They didn't speak for the first few minutes. The music did it for them. But then Ivy leaned in and whispered, "Tell me you haven't thought about what we could have been." Liam's breath hitched. Ivy, but she pressed, "Tell me the truth." He didn't answer. He didn't need to. That night, Hope confronted him. "You still love her," she said, blunt, brittle. "I don't know what I feel," Liam admitted. "Everything's tangled right now." "Well, untangle it," she snapped, "before you break everything we've tried to rebuild." And Steffy? She wasn't blind. She approached Ivy days later in the Forrester design room. The tension between them was suffocating. "You're back," and suddenly Liam can't think straight. That's not a coincidence. Ivy folded her arms. Maybe he's finally starting to think clearly. The words hit like a slap. Steffy stepped closer. "Don't pretend like you're innocent. You know exactly what you're doing." "I know what I feel," Ivy replied. "Cool. Can you say the same?" The triangle had become a square. Hope and Steffy, two halves of Liam's fractured heart, now flanked by Ivy, the wild card, the memory reborn. The worst part? Liam began seeing a future with Ivy again. Not in fantasies, but in flashes. Her smile after a late dinner. The way she challenged him. The way she didn't see him as broken. He started leaning on her more, calling more. Just checking in. Just venting. It escalated until one night, Ivy showed up at his place with a simple message. "I'm not going to be the other woman. If you want me, choose me. But I'm not sitting on the sidelines again." Liam stood frozen in his doorway, knowing that whatever he said next would shatter something. And then Hope walked in. The three of them in the same room, the weight of a decade crashing down on them. Hope didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just looked at Liam and said, "You've already made your choice." She left. Ivy stayed silent, unsure if she'd won anything at all. Days passed. Steffy found out. She called Liam furious. How could you let her blow up your life again? He couldn't answer. He was spiraling again, torn, guilty, tired. He went to Brooke's cabin to try to find Hope, but she wouldn't open the door. At Spencer Publications, Bill confronted him, angry, disappointed. "You finally had it together. And you threw it all away for a ghost." But Liam didn't argue. Because part of him knew Bill was right. Ivy waited. She waited through the storm, believing maybe this was their time. But when Liam finally came to her door, he didn't say what she expected. He didn't say he chose her. He said, "I need time." Ivy nodded slowly, swallowing the pain. "Then take it. But know this, I'm not standing still forever." By then, the damage had spread. Hope wasn't just angry, she was done. She pulled her line from Forrester. Left the company. Told Liam she needed distance for good. Steffy, disgusted with the entire mess, distanced herself too, not out of jealousy, but exhaustion. "We've played this game too long," she said. "Maybe we all lose this time." Liam was alone. And Ivy, the woman who returned with hope in her heart, was now wondering if she'd simply walked back into a storm that had no safe shelter. But still, she stayed. Because if there was one thing Ivy knew better than anyone, it was that love in this town never died. It twisted. It burned. It reinvented itself. And if there was still a chance, no matter how fragile, she would take it. Even if it meant waiting in the eye of the storm.